On the 12th of July, the US rallied 14 countries, including the Philippines, to issue a joint statement commemorating the 10th anniversary of the South China Sea arbitration ruling. They wrapped themselves in the flag of international rules and demanded that China respect the decision. Fast forward one day, Fudi the 13th of July. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio publishes an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and releases a video on X. His message: he's going to dismantle the International Criminal Court, ICC, brick by brick, in his own words. So on the 12th of July, they're waving the banner of international law in the South China Sea. On the 13th of July, they're vowing to tear down the world's premier international judicial body. That, folks, is the US super double standard in action. Before we go further, let's set the table. The ICC was established in 2002, based on the Rome Statute adopted in 1998. It's headquartered in The Hague. It's the first permanent international court set up to prosecute individuals for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. It operates on the principle of complementarity. It only steps in when a country is unwilling or unable to genuinely prosecute these crimes itself. As of 2026, 125 countries have joined the Rome Statute. But look at the UN Security Council's Permanent Five. China, Russia, and the US are all non-members. The US actually signed the treaty in 2000, but never ratified it. China never signed on. So the US is not a member of the ICC. Yet. It's now trying to destroy it, because the ICC has been investigating America itself. The ICC did issue an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, and the US applauded that. But what really got Washington's back up was the ICC's action on Israel. In November 2024, the ICC issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, charging them with crimes against humanity and war crimes in Gaza. The US wants to protect not only itself, but also its closest ally in the Middle East. On top of that, the ICC has been looking into alleged war crimes in Afghanistan. The US isn't a member, but the ICC dared to investigate Americans and Israelis. So the US decided to kill the court. Trump signed an executive order sanctioning the ICC back in February of last year. Now, Rubio has escalated it to a full government, assault Thai visa bans, asset freezes, travel restrictions, and pressuring other countries to leave the ICC altogether. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. The current president of the ICC is Tomoko Akane, a Japanese jurist. She's the first Japanese to hold that position, and she's done two things that infuriated the US. In March 2023, she and two other judges issued that arrest warrant for Putin. Her public stance: when there's evidence and necessity, we must act tidy regardless of political context. In November 2024, she was on the panel that authorized the warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. She's already been put on Russia's wanted list. In December 2025, a Moscow court sentenced her in absentia to between 3.5 and 15 years in prison. Now the United States is coming after her court, Sabi, and she's the one sitting in the president's chair. So who's in the most uncomfortable spot? Japan. Just days earlier, Tokyo was right there with the US, hyping the South China Sea arbitration, and even coordinating with the Philippines on maritime claims in waters east of Taiwan. They were full-throated against China. Now, the US is going after an institution whose president is Japanese style, and Japan is also the ICC's biggest financial contributor. So how did Japan respond? On the 14th of July, Japan's chief cabinet secretary held a press conference and said, Japan is closely watching and is concerned about the US plan to eliminate the ICC. That's it. Concerned. Not oppose. Not protest. Just concerned. Then he added, Japan has consistently supported the ICC. Wait, Twanbe, your own national is the president. You're the top funder and you're concerned, while the US sanctions your judge. Talk about cognitive dissonance. Now compare. On the South China Sea, Japan is tough as nails against China. But when it comes to the US stomping on the ICC, they can't even muster a no. That's Japan, aggressive toward China, but utterly submissive when the US pushes back. The European Union, on the other hand, took a much firmer line on that very same day sortie, the 14th of July. The EU issued a statement flatly rejecting the US claim that the ICC threatens American sovereignty. The EU said, "Any attack or threat against the ICC and its staff is completely unacceptable." They stressed that the ICC operates under the Rome Statute and prosecutes individual criminal responsibility, not state sovereignty. So the EU is openly pushing back against the US by, at least in words. You remember those 12 other countries that signed on to the South China Sea Statement with the US, the UK, Germany, Italy, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the 3 Baltic states, Romania, Slovenia. Every single one of them is an ICC member. They cheered international rules one day. The next day, their own ally vows to dismantle the very court that embodies those rules. Don't they feel sick? But what did they say? Mostly nothing. Radio silence. Here's the bottom line. For the US, pushing the South China Sea arbitration is about American interests. Destroying the ICC is also about American interests. International law is just a tool. 40 use it. When it helps, break it when it doesn't. The 12th of July, South China Sea Statement. The 13th of July, dismantle the ICC. 2 acts. 1 script. Whatever serves us power. They don't believe in international rules. They believe in rules that serve them. Here's the absurdity of it all. The ICC was created by Europeans, with 125 member states. The 3 permanent Security Council members that aren't part of it are China, Russia, and the United States. Now the US 128 non-member Suwai wants to tear it down. The EU, Sur's biggest backer, can only protest verbally. Japan, the top donor and home to the sitting president, can't even bring itself to say no. The Philippine side, which used the ICC to arrest its own former president Duterte, while simultaneously backing the US on the South China Sea, is now trapped. All President Marcos could say was, "Us policy is beyond our control." And the other 12 signatories, they're keeping their heads down. These countries were waving the flag of international justice one day, and the next day they watched the US trample it underfoot. Doesn't that make you sick? Not to the US wine. Because as long as it's American interests, anything goes.